Hello everyone, it's Davide here and welcome back to Learning Finance. In today's video guys, I'm going to do an update on Square stock, ticker symbol SQ. If you follow my channel, you know that I have been talking about Square since this summer, and since then the stock went up more than 100%. I usually like to follow Square very closely. I sometimes give updates on the stock, and this is one of them. The last one I did was between the mid-November, so in that one, and since then the stock went up even more, so I'm pretty happy about that. And so we are gonna take a look at what to do now, because the stock has reached a all-time high again today, Friday 11th of December. So we are gonna see that and where the price of Square can go. As always guys, the only thing I ask you is please leave me an early like, it's very important. I thank you for it, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new updates. Let's begin. So here we see guys the graph of Square. It is awesome. We went from March around 35 bucks per share to now 216. It is amazing. Now today we have reached an all-time high of $222.20 per share, and now we are gonna see that the stock, it looks like a little bit of pullback. Okay, now that is absolutely normal. The stocks can go in a single direction forever. However, the trend, guys, we cannot deny it. It is extremely bullish still. Now, in the last video I posted, my last update about Square, we were around here, I think, near 180 probably. Then we have this pullback. However, I did a fundamental valuation about it. So if you want to see the full one, just go to see that video here. I'll leave you the link down in the description. And in that video, I gave my two price targets, okay, where I saw the stock as a fair price, and the first one was 227.44. At the time the stock was around 178 probably, and now we saw that today the stock went to 222, so very near my first fair price for Square. My second one, more speculative one, is $295 per share. I'm gonna show you what happens if we just change the Bitcoin revenue a bit. And if you remember from my previous video, I told you that Square was highly related to the Bitcoin cryptocurrency market. Let's see what they just did 2 or 3 days ago. As we can see, Square to support greener Bitcoin mining as part of a zero carbon pledge. As we know, Square, it is one of the first big US companies to adopt Bitcoin as a business itself, and then they have been followed by PayPal, and PayPal CEO actually said in an interview that they are planning to add Bitcoin payments in 2021, the first quarters of 2021. What that means is that basically if you have Bitcoin in your wallet and you want to buy something, let's say you are in a shop and you want to pay for something, they will be able to allow you to pay with Bitcoin. However, the shop will not receive Bitcoin but will receive the equivalent in cash. Okay, so instant payment from Bitcoin to cash, and that's an interesting stuff that can actually have an use for the cryptocurrencies. And obviously Square is even more toward the cryptocurrency space. And as we see right now, because the big problem about Bitcoin is that it takes a lot of power to actually mine Bitcoins, okay, and actually allow the system to work. However, Square have invested $10 million. They are trying to actually reduce the amount of energy consumed to mine Bitcoin. Announced today, the company said it aims to become a net zero carbon contributor for operations by 2030 and wants to help drive the adoption and efficiency of renewables with the Bitcoin ecosystem. Square said it has mapped out a path toward a net zero carbon target by lowering its own carbon footprint in conjunction with a scaling a verified carbon removal portfolio, which Square intends to launch in the first quarter of 2021. So once again, this is very positive for Square itself to actually move to the green energies and stuff. And we know that these kind of things are pushing a lot, especially now with the new US president. And Square, it looks like that they are trying a way to actually put Bitcoin in a green way. We believe that cryptocurrencies will eventually be powered completely by clean power, eliminating its carbon footprint and driving adoptions of renewables globally, said Jack Dorsey, CEO of Square. So we realize that Square is really pushing through cryptocurrencies. And as we can see, as I showed you in the previous video, from the previous Q3 earnings, we see that Square has exploded the total revenue in the quarterly basis, more than 3 billion in revenue. However, this is important. The Bitcoin business, Bitcoin revenue is more than 50% of it. And when we see Bitcoin costs, we realize that it is very not efficient, okay? Not efficient at all. 1.63 billion in revenue, 1.601 in costs. So indeed, when we go to take a look at the margin of the Q3, we have 1.2%, okay, as an overall. So 3.03 billion and 36 million in net income for Square in the Q3 2020. However, we can see that in terms of fundamentals and financials, Square is a strong company right now, very liquid, more than 2 billion in cash and cash equivalents, a total current assets of 6.4, almost 6.5 billion, and when we see current liabilities, 3.8. So it is almost a current ratio of 2. And then when we take a look at total, 8.1 billion in assets, 6 billion in liabilities. So once again, that's very interesting indeed. So the company is becoming liquid. Considering from December, they've added 1 more billion in cash. So they are ready to actually do more investments. They can buy other companies if they want, a small one, startups and stuff. That they have the power and the willingness to put more products in the Cash App. So the company, in terms of growth, in terms of ideas, in terms of innovation, it is very interesting, and that's why the price did almost 8x this year. Okay, Jack Dorsey. Many people actually criticize him because of Twitter. It wasn't a great job, someone is saying about that, but overall with Square, it looks like that he really knows what he's talking about as of now. I want to show you something over there, so let's come back to the valuation, because if you are invested in Square, this is the main risk that you have to know. If you remember from the previous video, I have divided the different revenues from different divisions. So we have transactions-based revenue, subscriptions and services, hardware revenue, Bitcoin revenue. And so we realized that historically those one were the growth rates, okay, over the last 4 to 5 years. However, obviously when a company continue to grow, these rates are gonna decrease, okay, as the company becomes bigger and bigger. It cannot continue to grow at incredible rates. So I have been pretty conservative here, and in the previous valuation I told 17% for transaction-based, 56% for subscriptions, 14% for the hardware revenue. Let's say it is the weaker one. And then here we have the magic, guys, and this is the main risk for Square as well. At the Bitcoin revenue, as I just showed you, Square is pushing a lot through cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin itself. What is the problem? The problem is that when you take a look at what happens in 2024, we have that the Bitcoin revenue for Square is gonna be more than 60% of the revenue for Square. We see this orange piece of cake, which is huge compared with other divisions. So obviously this is the gold, but it is also the biggest risk. Actually pushing through cryptocurrencies and having your business under the influence of that particular market, which, as we know, it is something relatively new, which has not been fully regulated yet. So this is something that we have to pay attention to. Now, obviously, I remain positive about Square. You know that I own the stock. I own it since this summer when I showed you my first videos, and I remain positive. I think that they can continue to make money with Bitcoin, especially going on in the future if more adoptions happens. However, we have to be real and we have to realize that the risk is here. And what I mean by that, I'm just gonna show you what happens to the fundamental valuation if something wrong happens to the Bitcoin revenue. Now, I said 50% in the next 40 years as a growth. And now we can see that from 2019 to 2020, the business went up more than 1000%. Okay, so here I was being very conservative. Now, obviously, they have introduced it just in 2019. So here we have seen an explosion, but I cannot say that this will continue to go on forever. Otherwise, you have Square that will make $1 trillion by 2024. Okay, and that's not likely. However, 50%, 55% analysts are saying that it is reasonable. What if something goes wrong? So we see that the two valuations, so the price to sales ratio valuation 4.5, which is an average of the Square's price to sales ratio over the last 5 to 6 years, and then this one, it is the one with the P/E ratio. Now, right now, the P ratio is around 300, more than 300. However, I put near 80, which was the initial price to sales ratio of Square before the enthusiasm. Okay, so I think that in the next 5 years, probably the price to sales ratio can calm down a little bit. Okay, so that's why I put there. But if you want to change it, you just put whatever you want in it. It's just that when you do evaluation, sometimes it doesn't make sense to put incredible high P ratios. Then we have these interesting numbers. So this one was my first target and we reached it. And this one, 295. It's a very high number, today's fair price. And this is because of the Bitcoin revenue. But what happens if something goes wrong there? Just let's take a look. If instead of 50%, let's say something goes wrong and they do just 35%, then boom, we have that the more speculative valuation put today's fair price of 231, and then the one with the net margin and 77% P ratio, it comes down, you see, substantially, $177.78. Now, obviously, if the Bitcoin revenue comes down, probably the price to earnings ratio will come down even more, okay, because people realize that the growth is less. Okay, so obviously and logically, they will willing to pay not that much. This is the main risk. Let's say it goes to 28%, which is an incredible number as well. What we have, it is 207 with the more speculative price to sale ratio valuation and 159.60 with the P ratio valuation. Okay, so obviously these can go even higher. Okay, I could say that 50 is not enough, so it can be 60% in the next 4 years. And then obviously will make the valuation explode in a positive way. So obviously there is not just the negativeness in this thing. However, what you have to keep in mind is that when Square decided to push a lot through the cryptocurrencies, and actually their revenues are made more than 50% by the Bitcoin revenue itself, obviously they are very correlated to the crypto market environment. Okay, so if something bad happens over there, well, we have to be careful because you have seen the volatility of how this variable over there can change everything dramatically, okay, in a positive and but also negative. So that's why I like to follow Square very closely, almost day after day, try to see what happened in the world of cryptos and innovations, because this stock can still explode on the upside if things go better than expected, because you have seen the power of the Bitcoin variable on the Square price. However, if something bad happens, well, a lot of volatility will come through Square stock price, okay? So as of now, I remain with my previous valuation, and I'm pretty confident that Square can continue to grow if things continue to be positive with Bitcoin revenue. I also expect Square to add more feature to the Cash App. We have seen that they started with not much, then they added the stock market, so you can buy stocks, and then they added Bitcoin, and then I'm pretty sure that they will continue to update and keep updated the Cash App, which is a wonderful instrument for this company. However, just guys, keep an eye on the Bitcoin revenue, and that's it. And I remain invested in Square as long as I see no trouble in this industry, okay? Just keep an eye on that. As long as things continue to go well, Square will continue to go up. Brilliant company, still bullish on it, continuing to hold the company, but just keep an eye open. Okay, cryptocurrency world, very important for Square. So I hope you find this video interesting, guys, and leave me a like and leave me a comment below. Tell me, what do you think about Square? Do you own it or not? And subscribe to the channel, and as always, guys, have a wonderful day.